Hey, Kath, how are you?
Yeah, I'm well, thanks. How are you, Chris?
Good. I know we're kind of in a little crazy times at the moment. Everybody's working from home, very casual, as you see,
Yes,
with my
indeed.
with my Red Sox logo in the background.
Awesome.
um, um, so today we're going to talk about A/B testing in the world of email marketing, right?
Yes, yes. Great.
And sort of so give me sort of your opinion on the state of A/B testing across clients, right? Kind of what's happening out there.
Yeah, okay, great. So what I've found, this is after, I've been, speaking to clients, I've been teaching, um, presenting on testing, all of these sort of things for years. And the one thing that is really obvious is that A/B testing, A/B split testing in email is still done very ad hocly, meaning that there's not much thought put into it. They're very, very much reliant upon the actual system. So it's usually the ESP doing
Yep.
an automated split test for them. Very little thought, very little planning, no hypotheses, very short-term results. So they're only expecting to get a result for that particular campaign.
Right. Right.
Right? They're not looking to get any learnings for their email program or even insights about about their audience.
Yep.
So I think there's huge room for improvement. Now, what that looks like is we've got a few ideas. So yeah.
um, so what do what do you see as, because we see the same thing, right? It tends to be used on a single campaign basis, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and if they have a win, right? If they hit a home run with a test or something,
Yeah.
um, they then think that that's what they should do all the time.
Yes.
And of course, generally it fails moving forward because it was a in a bubble test, right?
Yes. Yes.
Um, and chances are that the audience wasn't even really segmented for the test properly,
Yeah.
which probably tweaked their results. I mean, there's lots of problems. So what do you see? How do you? I mean, sort of what's happening now is they just use the A/B testing, regular
Yeah.
random split, so to speak,
Yes. Yeah.
um, and with a 4 hour window most
Yeah.
times. Rarely does it go past that for most people. Um,
Yeah.
so where do you see the main problems are?
Okay, so there's a number of problems.
Yes,
One,
there are.
most
Right?
of them don't use statistical confidence at all, right? So therefore they could be optimizing for a winner that's actually truly not even a winner, right? They not only that, but they don't test it multiple times, and they can't test it multiple times because they're not using a hypothesis. The only way you can test, the same test multiple times is to use a single hypothesis, which gives you the ability to have, if you're doing subject lines, right, to have various subject lines, but they're all supporting their hypotheses. Otherwise, you're just repeating the same, saying exactly the same thing, and you're going to lose your audience that way, right? So this is a problem. By the fact that they're not doing it, testing it multiple times, means that they could be, again, optimizing for an anomaly, right?
Right.
So that's very problematic. And then, like what you were saying before, it's a short-term thing. They're optimizing for that short term, and they're very much relying upon the technology. Whereas I think what it is, and do you know what? It simply is a matter of email marketers actually just being taught how to do scientific A/B split testing. We don't do that. That's
No.
it. We are literally led by the tools, and the tools are limited with what they can do. They are technology, and bless them, that's what they do.
Right. That's their
Um,
job. Right.
exactly. But we as marketers need to take, control of this situation
Yep.
and actually use our insights and our learnings and everything. And then we need to be starting to go, what is it? What is going to shift, the needle in this case. What can I learn about my audience that I can apply to not only this particular campaign, but to other ones as well, because it's actually an insight about my audience. And you can then refine that audience down into segments. So you can do it, newcomers, first-time buyers, win back, whatever the story is. So you can break it into life cycles if you want. All the
personas, whatever you want to break it into, right?
And the bottom line is that I think it's a huge missed opportunity that we really need to be jumping onto, because this now, we've been through, okay, Chris, you and I, we've been in the email industry a long time. We've seen things change. Every year we're asked the same question. So what's going to be, the trend for next year and everything? We, in email, we're doing a great job, and it is evolving, and all those naysayers that say, email hasn't evolved and email static, completely wrong. We are evolving, and I think this is the stage that we're now at, that we've evolved so much. Technology is amazing. Whatever you want to do, you can find technology to help you with your campaign, right?
Yeah.
So what you ideally want to do now is to start being savvy and start using your marketing notes and start to refine and optimize, because essentially this is the low-hanging fruit. Optimization of your campaigns is going to give you those wins, those easy wins that you're wanting to do. And once you actually have a good routine put in place, it's not as time consuming as you want. And thinking, because this is the one thing that really I can't understand. A lot of my clients, can you help us to work out some tests? We can't think of any. And I'm like, oh my goodness, does that mean you know everything that you ever want to know about what works, about your clients? Literally, just if you've got any questions, that's where you start, and go and create a hypothesis based upon that. And then always give yourself room to actually then go, okay, so that's really interesting. I wasn't expecting that, because generally when you create a hypothesis, you're going to say, I believe that this will happen. And then you've got that very important because. So you're actually substantiating why you think that this is going to win over this, right?
Right.
And I think that's actually one of the reasons why people don't like using hypotheses, because they feel like they're kind of going to be proven wrong. And to me, don't even consider that. You have still got a winning campaign if it's a statistically confident campaign, because you've learned something about your audience, or about your campaign, or about your email program. So even if you didn't quite get it wrong, don't worry about it. It's okay. There's no losers when you're testing like that.
Yeah. It's odd. So the part of the problem is, I say sometimes part of the problem is the tools, but it really isn't. The tools are what they are, right? Here's what they give you. The platforms try to make things easy for multiple reasons, but the main reason is, email, if we go back to the sort of the main problem, right? So email doesn't get a lot of times the budget it deserves, right?
Yes.
Or the team to actually do the work it deserves. I mean,
yes.
Even in larger companies, we're lucky to see a 2-person team in a large company. I mean, a company where it should be a 5-10 person team without even trying, right?
Yeah.
So that's part of the problem: time, resources, money, whatever you want to call those problems, right? It's the same problem with data, right? Big data was the thing not too long ago, right? And I kept saying, why are we talking about big data when we suck at small data, right? Because we did. We weren't, not everybody, I mean, just in general, it wasn't used well, right?
Yeah.
But you're right, on the A/B testing side, specifically that, what we run into the most is people don't understand, like you said, having a hypothesis. What is the plan, right? What is the goal, right? What do you think is going to happen here? Or what do you want to happen, right? And sometimes what you want to happen isn't what happens, but what you learn is very valuable. We tell people all the time, a failure, you can learn as much from a failure, sometimes more than you can from a win, right?
Absolutely.
You know,
Absolutely.
and a single test doesn't prove anything
No.
except for that moment in time.
Yes.
You need to repeat tests and repeat
Absolutely.
success to turn it into a working hypothesis. Hey, this is
Yeah. It's a
true
learning. Yes.
because we've done this 10 times and
Absolutely.
now we know it's
Yeah.
a truism. Our
Yeah.
audience now responds a certain way when we do a certain thing,
Yes.
when we do it this way. The other problem I see is on the splits, right? When the system automates the splits, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And depending on what the segment is to begin with that they're using, right? Because a lot of people will
Yeah.
use their whole list.
Yes.
And so we're gonna take our whole list and we're gonna, have 10% go to A, 10%
Yeah.
go to B, 80% go to the winner. I mean, that's your basic deal, right?
Yes. Yes. Yes.
And because they use the random split, the problem is the actives could be in one group, the inactives are in another group, and of course the one group's going to win every time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Um, and they just don't understand that's what happens with the technology, what the technology is
Yes.
actually doing, right?
Yes.
They believe the technology is smarter than it is.
Yeah.
A friend of mine said, and I really like this, I won't say who it was, but anyway, he said, email marketers, especially those without a lot of knowledge, and
Yes.
it's not their fault. They're just sometimes they're thrusted into it, right?
Yeah.
Um, is when he said it's like training a dog using an email
Yeah.
platform, right? Good dogs and bad dogs come from either good training or bad training. Email marketing is the same way. You have to train your technology to do what you want it to do.
Mm-hmm.
If you let it do what it wants to do, then you have a bad dog. Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Mm-hmm.
basically what they said, right?
Yeah.
Is you haven't taught it what you want. You haven't given it enough definition
Yeah.
for what you want to happen and prove it. But
I mean,
so
you've literally touched on, I don't know, most of my points that I tend to talk about a lot.
I'm
You would
sorry.
say,
Didn't mean
no,
to,
no, it's
yeah,
brilliant.
yeah,
Because all you're doing is I talk a lot about the fact that marketers don't take responsibility, that they leave a lot of things up to the technology, because we have got such amazing technology, and we sort of think, oh well, we'll leave it to them. We'll leave it to the technology, instead of taking control and saying, wait on, I'm the marketer here. I need to be actually designating and informing and directing the technology to do what I need it to do.
yeah.
And I think that is often the case, though, because of a couple of things. One, email marketing, we tend to fall into email marketing. No one ever sort of leaves high school or leaves uni and says, oh, I'm going to become an email marketer. I mean, because
No,
there are no courses like that for it.
nope.
So we tend to fall into it. And therefore, that's why the education, and i.e. educating about, how to do a scientific way of A/B split testing, doesn't exist. And so we then are informed by the technology, and that's why we tend to let the technology lead us. Two, exactly what you said, your first point. We are under-resourced, we are under-budgeted, we are underappreciated, undervalued, and all the rest of it in email marketing.
Even though we drive most of the revenue most of the time, right?
Right. And so how that ends up leaving us is that we are literally we're on this, sort of like, we're churning out. Do we have the time to actually think about a hypothesis and put a test in place, and then to go and do the reporting and all that? We've barely got enough time to actually get the campaigns out. So there's a lot of problems with that as well. Yeah. Now, the holistic approach for testing, so we call it holistic testing, it's a really, really simple one, and it actually solves that problem, right? The reason for being, so at Holistic Email Marketing, we believe in taking a holistic approach. Funny that. And so we carry that over to the testing. So when you think about it, who is your audience? Who are you testing? You're testing your target audience. You're testing you could be having a segmented, or as you say, a full database, but you're testing those that are prospects. You're testing people that have signed up to you but not have purchased, those that have purchased once, those that have purchased multiple times, your loyal customers, those that used to be customers but are no longer customers, right? So you've got the whole thing. So you are testing everyone. Now, these are people you want to know more about, because if you end up testing those that have signed up but they haven't actually converted, then let's go and ask some questions. Why haven't they? Let's go and put that into a test. Let's see what we can actually be finding out, which is going to be shifting the needle as far as that and converting them into being customers. This is really, really great information. Now, there's no reason why we can't then, if we're using hypotheses, we're testing multiple times, we've actually got a solid conclusion to our test. There's no reason why we can't then go and take those insights and learnings and apply them to our landing pages, our e-commerce pages, our social, our PPC, and all the rest of it. So now we're talking about email, because if you think about it, email is the cheapest way to test. It's efficient, it's fast, yeah.
It's targeted, you can control your audience, right?
Absolutely. If you're wanting to find out the result, well, then you just go for, those that haven't yet converted. That's going to be your PPC audience.
Right.
So anyhow, so now we're talking about putting email as being in the center of testing. I'm not saying you don't go and test your landing pages. You don't test your PPC and all the rest of it.
Right.
But you can be doing that to be enhancing, to be improving, to be incrementally finding out more information, but at least it's going to give you a better starting place if you test it via email, right? So now more money, budget, resource, everything can be put into email, because now we're actually, this is very important. Not only are we driving sales and revenue and engagement and everything, but we're also going to be finding out more insights. And so your data team is going to want to sit more closely with your email team and really be helping with those tests and all the rest of it. So to me, it's exciting, because what is a challenge for us to actually sort of get through and do testing, we've actually got that power in our hands to change it ourselves.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I couldn't agree more. Right. The conundrum of resource is always going to be there, unfortunately, I think.
Yeah.
The mindset of a lot of people has always been email is easy because everybody does it. Everybody sends an email. It's easy to do, right? Also, because the platforms have made it very easy to do, people believe that, what they're doing is really great because they're using this technology and they're getting stuff done and it's making money. Because that's one of the other problems is you can do things not so well with email and still make money.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that's the other thing, right?
That's it.
Yeah. And that's part of the problem as well, right? Because, we're making money. I said, yeah, but you're leaving so much on the table, right? Is the problem.
That is, I mean, as you guys, you're in a similar situation to us, right? So we almost have to convince the C-suite that, you know what, we know that email is your highest, the channel that gives you the highest ROI at the moment. We understand that. But do you understand that you're actually, yes, you're leaving money on the table, you could be making more. And it's their incomprehension of it. They can't conceive that because we're already making the highest amount of ROI, how can we actually be making even more? Hence why they're reticent to actually be investing in more, because they're literally disbelief. No.
Yep.
And that is a problem.
Yeah.
It's almost, and I've said this for over 10 years. Email is its own worst enemy.
It is. Because it works and you can get up and running pretty easily.
Yes.
You may not do it well, but like I said, even not doing it well, you can make money. That's the problem, right?
Yeah.
And when we have our battles with the C-suite as well, right?
Yeah.
And so with them, so if you're an email marketer and you're managing your email for a company and you'd like to be able to have more resources, more, if you need other technology to make things work or people, don't talk about opens and clicks and Don't talk about automations. Don't talk
Yes.
about stuff that's going to make it's just going to make their head hurt, right?
Yes.
Talk about the revenue curve. That's
it.
really all you talk about, right? Say, we've done some testing and we proved that by doing a few things, we can raise revenue from here to here. But in order to do it, we need some more resources.
Yes.
Right? And with those resources, through our testing, through our holistic testing, as Kath says, doing it properly, then we can then have a proven hypothesis that says if we spend this money and we do X, Y, and Z, revenue should go up 10 or 12%.
Exactly.
If that's music to their ears, that's something they're going to understand.
They can understand, absolutely.
Right. And that's
No, you've just hit on something else that's incredibly important and is quite controversial though. But I think for me, with I don't know how many tests, as you yourself, done tens of thousands of tests, right?
Easily.
The metrics, your success metric is absolutely key. And I think that's where we go wrong a lot with email marketing is we tend to choose the easily accessible metrics, the opens, the clicks. We're not focusing on the actual real meaningful metrics. And the way that I've gone and done it in the past is I've gone in and sort of tested it, because whenever you do any test, that's what you're going to be doing. You're going to measure the opens, you measure clicks, you might measure the click to open, you're going to measure if you're in e-commerce, average order value, the total sale, the number of sales, blah, 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 and all the rest of it. So you're measuring everything. But out of all of that, you're not going to choose open as being your key success metric. It's an early indicator of success, but it's not the end success, right? So you're going to be choosing what is your objective for that particular campaign. If your objective is to actually create sales, make sales, revenue, that's what your success metric should be when you're actually doing your test.
Yeah, we'll have clients come to us and they'll say, hey, we want to hire you because we want you to increase like an e-commerce company. This happens all the time. They come to us and they say, we want you to increase our open and click-through rate.
Yes.
And I'll say, okay, let's say we increase revenue, but opens and clicks stay the same. Would that be okay?
Yes.
And they go, oh, yeah. I said, okay, let's not focus on these, right? Let's focus on revenue, right?
Thank you.
Because it really is. If your goal, you need to understand your goal. And it's amazing how many companies don't really have a true goal, right? Other than, oh, we want more sales. Well, so does everybody else, right? So, but how do your goal is to increase revenue by what, right? Sales by what? And if that's the number you're going for, then how do you get there? And then you start to back up, right?
Yeah.
So people go, well, you have a goal and you go forward. No, I said, you have a goal and you go backwards, because how are you going to get there? That's where you're going. You can't go forward. You have to go backwards, right?
That's it. It's like, it's the waterfall. And when you do that, when you start at the right place, everything falls into place. And it's very obvious. You don't sit there and go, what's our success metric for this campaign? You go, what is our goal? And then the success metric is literally jumping out the page at you, right? It ends up being something as simple as that. Then once you've identified the objective and the success metric, you then go, well, what's our subject line going to be? Okay, well, that's easy. And then you go, okay, well, what's our call to action going to be? Oh, well, that's easy. Because suddenly, because you're focusing on the right thing, everything falls into place and it's suddenly really easy. So we do this from a overarching perspective, from the creating a whole strategy for your email marketing and your digital marketing. But then also you do that on a campaign by campaign basis. And then you also then apply that to your testing as well. So much of email is common sense, but you just need to actually think it through and start at the right place.
And have a goal. Right? Have a goal.
Absolutely.
Understand your goal and have a goal. Don't just do it. And don't just react either. So right now there's a lot of reaction, right? Because of what's happening. I'm not a big fan for companies putting out messages just for the sake of putting them out, right? If you need to tell your people something, that's fine. But don't bleed it to death. I see lots of bad email going out right now. It's crazy, right? That being said, I think I think so here's the other thing is when we write blog posts, we talk about, even like we're talking right now, right? This is a good talk because it's a generality. We're not talking about a specific type of business what we're talking about here could work for any business, right?
Yeah.
But one of the things I think as an industry we make a mistake at is, we put out lots of white papers, we put out lots of blog posts and case studies, but we don't give context well, right? Meaning, like I'll have someone call me and say, oh, I want to do browse abandonment. I said, okay, you don't have the traffic volume to spend the money to set it up. It's just not worth it, right? The money could be better spent somewhere else.
Yes.
Browse abandonment has a low conversion rate, right? You said, well, I read an article that Amazon makes X amount of revenue from, okay, you're not Amazon, all right?
Yeah.
Okay. I
You're
love
not
you.
comparable to them. Yeah,
I love you. Right. Or they'll say, oh, well, this does, okay, they have a million times more traffic than you do, right?
Yeah.
But
yeah.
A lot of times we don't, a lot of times case studies will be done, and if they're blind case studies, they don't even say the name of the company, which is fine, but it doesn't say, this company is, 1,000 employees, makes 500 million a year, and
yes.
So what worked for them doesn't necessarily translate to your small business, right?
That's it.
Or even your mid-sized business, it may not. So while a lot of the information out there is really good, for someone to absorb that and use it in context is one of the other problems, right? Because people will see a win somebody had and go, oh, well, I'm going to do that.
Yes.
And it doesn't work, or it goes badly, right?
And again, this comes back down to, and I'm not being hard on marketers here, on email marketers here, comes back to what we just said: under-resourced, under-budgeted, under-educated. And so therefore it's our natural instinct is because we have the drive, we have the desire to educate ourselves, to learn. So we go and read articles, and we do that. We go, oh, okay, so that's it. We have this inclination to look for those silver bullets because we don't have the time, to be, really.
You want to hit a home run. Yeah, you always want to hit a home run.
When so I tell people, for someone else,
I tell people if we like it when we hit a home run, and it happens sometimes, but most games aren't won with a home run. They're won with singles and doubles, meaning consistent growth, consistent movement, consistent increase of metrics.
Iterable, exactly.
Repeatable,
Yeah. So, I mean, and this again falls into a lot of what I speak and write about, and that's all about us questioning best practices, so-called best practices. Now, there are, of course, and I've written extensively on this, I've been doing this for the last few years, there are, of course, valid best practices, which I call true best practices, right? Authenticate, things like that, right? Get permission. Absolutely. Right. No one's going to be arguing this is it.
Right.
And we're talking about things that are beyond legal, okay? So we're talking about best practices, things that work. These are those silver bullets that everyone says that we need to be doing. There are lots of best practices out there which are touted as being best practices, but they're actually archaic best practices. So they used to be, and they were valid, but now they don't, there's no reason for them, right?
Right.
Some of them are self-serving, so that they've actually been created and implemented into the industry by generally a vendor, a technology vendor, because it suits them. Right? Yes. And then there are other ones, like you were just saying, just because it works for someone, and then suddenly a trend happens. And no one, and I can cite you. This is a famous happening. Do you remember when the websites with the carousels first started coming?
Oh yeah, the wheelies. Yeah.
And everyone was just like, "How sexy is that? Look at that! Oh my goodness, websites!" And you've got so
the spinning flaming logo.
And my competitors are doing it. Oh, I've got to do it. So without any sort of research, any testing, any trialing, they all just went and did it, and their sales just plummeted, because it was only afterwards that testing started doing, and they realized that the carousels work if they're using them for the same product, right? So you've got 5 different images.
Views of the same product.
Exactly. right? You're educating and everything. But if you're showing them one and they're sort of going, oh, your sales will plummet. But that's what happened, because we all jumped on the bandwagon going, oh, that looks really good. Hey, this is really sexy. Just because it's sexy for a marketer doesn't mean it's actually going to translate into being feasible or appealing to the consumer. So, you know, and that's another thing. So all of this ends up being that we as email marketers need to take a step back, question things, question. I always say, whenever I'm teaching a course or speaking, I say, whatever I say to you, question me. Right?
Yes, all the time.
Question it. Don't just go and blindly go and say what go and do what I'm telling you to do. Test it. Everything I tell you, test it to see if it works for you. Now, you know, in most cases, I can guarantee you, because I've done this a lot, it will work for the majority of you, but for some it won't, because your audiences are different, your products are different, your buying cycles are different, whatever. And there's some kind of anomaly that's different. So never just blindly implement anything, including best practices other than the true best practices, authentication, permission.
Yeah. So we'll try to wrap this up here, because I don't want people to be stuck listening to us too long. They'll probably go crazy.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I always ask people, because I'll ask people the same question all the time, and the question is always why. So, oh, we want to get this email out today. Why? Why does it have to go out today? Why is this an emergency? Right? Well, we're going to have a sale, and okay, so when did you decide this? Right? So it's a, you know, why are you doing everything, and the why should make you create your goal. So no matter what it is you're going to do, whatever campaign, automation, trigger, whatever, why first, right? Why? And the why is because we want this to happen. We want some goal. Okay, so start with the goal and go backwards, right? How can you get there? And you're right about best practices, right? Even the known best, some of the known best practices. I mean, you could say, if you have e-commerce, having cart abandonment is a best practice, right? Because you'd be silly not to. Now, how you do that can be wildly different from company to company, right?
Agreed.
And that's another thing. I've kind of gone crazy on cart abandonment lately, right? Because most cart abandonments are not set up well, and they're screwed up, and they don't plan for anything. You know, it's a 3-message cart abandonment that we run into most times. Sometimes just a 1 message, but a 3-message that's over in 48 hours, right? The first one goes out in an hour, and the second one 4 to 24 hours, and the next one 48 hours, right? Your basic cart abandonment program. The problem is most of these companies run 24-hour sales, which means their cart abandonment program is broken. Because somebody's going to abandon during the sale, and then it's going to keep sending them these cart abandonment emails when the sale's over. And that's going to piss them off, because now you're reminding me to buy something I can't buy at that price anymore.
Exactly.
Right? So, yeah, I'm sorry, I got a little sideways there. But anyway, have goals, right? Have really understand why you're testing, and ask for resources. Find a way to do it. Show revenue. Show how you're going to increase revenue, or what the goal is why. That's why having a goal is important, right?
That's it.
And so to wrap this up, first of all, I'd like to thank you very, very much for your time. I know it's a tough time for everybody, but I do appreciate it. I've always found you to be incredibly intelligent. I know we haven't had lots of interactions because we're on the other side of the world most of the time. We do see each other here once in a while at the conferences. But I've followed you very, very long, and read all your stuff. I'm a big fan. I'm a big voracious reader. So I read a lot about all the different people, and you were one of the people top on my list to have this interview with. So I thank you for your time. I thank everybody for listening. If you ever need help, Kath's agency is a great agency. Holistic email, right?
Email marketing,
Holistic email marketing. And what is your website address? Tell them.
Yeah, holisticemailmarketing.com.
There you go. So please, even though she's an agency, we're an agency, this is email. We all love each other. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
Kath, I appreciate your time. No problem.
Yeah, great.
Okay. All right. Hang on just for a minute. Okay.
Okay.
Bye-bye.